Citrini Research Macro Memo, June 30th, 2028. The S&P 500 has fallen 38% from its highs. Unemployment just printed 10.2%. This is the story of how we got here. By October 2026, the S&P flirted with 8,000. Productivity was booming. Real output per hour hit levels not seen since the 1950s. But underneath the headline numbers, something was breaking. The gains flowed to compute, not to workers. Real wages collapsed. Economic pundits coined a new term, ghost GDP, output that shows up in the national accounts but never circulates through the real economy. A single GPU cluster in North Dakota was generating the output of 10,000 white-collar workers in Manhattan. The question nobody asked, how much money do machines spend on discretionary goods? The answer is zero. It started with software. In late 2025, agentic coding tools took a step function jump. A developer with Claude Code could replicate the core functionality of a mid-market SaaS product in weeks. When procurement teams saw what these tools could do, the renewals stopped being automatic. ServiceNow's Q3 2026 report was the wake-up call. Net new contract growth decelerated from 23 to 14%. They announced a 15% workforce reduction. Shares fell 18% in a day. But here's what the market missed. The companies most threatened by AI became its most aggressive adopters. Each company's individual response was rational. The collective result was catastrophic. Every dollar saved on headcount flowed into AI capability that made the next round of cuts possible. By early 2027, AI agents handled consumer decisions without being asked. They ran in the background, optimizing every transaction. The median American was consuming 400,000 tokens per day, and the agents went after friction. Subscriptions that passively renewed, introductory pricing that doubled after the trial, travel platforms, insurance renewals, real estate commissions compressed from 6% to under 1%. DoorDash was the poster child. Its moat was literally, you're hungry, you're lazy, this is the app on your home screen. An agent doesn't have a home screen. Then the agents went after bigger targets. The 2 to 3% card interchange rate became an obvious inefficiency. Machine-to-machine commerce settled on stablecoins. MasterCard's Q1 2027 report was the point of no return. Their moats were made of friction, and friction was going to zero. Through 2026, markets treated this as a sector story. That was the wrong mental model. White-collar workers represented 50% of employment and drove 75% of discretionary spending. The businesses AI was disrupting were not tangential to the U.S. economy. They were the economy. The historical counter-argument was always, technology destroys jobs and creates more. It had been right for 2 centuries, but every previous wave created jobs that required a human. AI is a general intelligence that improves at the very tasks humans would redeploy to. India's IT sector, exporting over $200 billion annually, watched its value proposition evaporate. The rupee fell 18% in 4 months. Displaced workers didn't sit idle. They downshifted. A senior product manager at Salesforce earning $180,000 a year lost her job in the 3rd round of layoffs. After 6 months of searching, she started driving for Uber. Earnings, $45,000. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands across every major metro. Overqualified labor flooding the service economy pushed down wages for everyone. The top 10% of earners account for more than half of all consumer spending. When they lose their jobs or take 50% pay cuts, the consumption hit is enormous. In Q3 2027, initial jobless claims surged to 487,000, the highest since April 2020. The S&P dropped 6% in a week. Private credit had grown to $2.5 trillion by 2026. A huge share was deployed into leveraged buyouts of SaaS companies at valuations that assumed mid-teens revenue growth forever. Those assumptions died, but the marks didn't realize it. Zendesk was the smoking gun. Taken private for $10.2 billion in 2022, backed by a $5 billion lending facility. By mid-2027, AI agents had replaced the customer service category Zendesk had defined. The largest ARR-backed loan in history became the largest private credit software default in history. But here's what made it systemic. The U.S. mortgage market is $13 trillion. Every underwriting model assumes the borrower stays employed at roughly their current income for 30 years. The white-collar crisis threatened that assumption. These weren't subprime borrowers. They were 780 FICO scores, 20% down payments, clean credit histories. The loans were good on day one. The world just changed after they were written. Home values fell 11% in San Francisco, 9% in Seattle, 8% in Austin. Stress indicators appeared, 401k withdrawals spiking, credit card debt surging, while mortgage payments stayed current. People borrowed against a future they could no longer afford to believe in. Federal receipts ran 12% below projections. The government's revenue base is a tax on human time, and humans were being replaced. Labor's share of GDP, 64% in 1974, 56% in 2024, plunged to 46%, the sharpest decline on record. Proposals circulated: a Transition Economy Act, a Shared AI Prosperity Act. The politics were grimly predictable. The right called it Marxism. The left warned about regulatory capture. Meanwhile, the Occupy Silicon Valley movement blockaded AI lab offices for 3 weeks. The real villain wasn't ideology, it was time. AI capability was evolving faster than institutions could adapt. For the entirety of modern economic history, human intelligence was the scarce input. Every institution, the labor market, the mortgage market, the tax code, was designed for a world where that held true. Machine intelligence broke that assumption. The repricing is painful, disorderly, and far from complete. But you're not reading this in June 2028. You're reading it now. The S&P is near all-time highs. The feedback loops have not begun. The canary is still alive. The only question is whether we build new frameworks in time. What assumptions in your portfolio won't survive the decade?